People rarely admit this, but there is a quiet, almost unspoken way of interacting with a woman that awakens something deep inside her. It's not about staged romance or trendy lines. It's about the rare energy of a man who doesn't beg, doesn't crumble, and doesn't revolve his life entirely around her. This calm, confident, self-reliant presence is what lingers in a woman's mind long after he is gone. No one openly says it, but this is how many women truly want to be treated. Not like fairy tale princesses and not like untouchable modern heroines, but as someone drawn to a strong masculine presence they cannot fully control. A man who doesn't beg, who doesn't over-explain, who doesn't bend just to please. Most men today are anxious, fragile, and predictable. When someone different appears, it shakes things up. Even if women repeat modern ideas, claiming they want sensitivity and emotional openness, which they sometimes do, there is also a deeper response. A response to the man who doesn't shake under pressure, who doesn't plead, who doesn't constantly seek attention and approval. To the man who is simply at ease being himself. This is what nobody tells you. A woman keeps thinking about the man she cannot fully understand. The man who didn't give away his whole world immediately. The man who didn't chase her every time she pulled away. Predictability kills attraction. Boredom erases desire. Ordinary men become just another repeated story. No one likes to admit it because it challenges the modern emotional narrative. Desire is messy, irrational, and honest. It doesn't follow rules, it just exists. And the truth is, many women are drawn to a man who behaves as if he doesn't need her. Not because he's cold, but because he already has his own life and identity. Whatever she cannot fully control becomes fascinating. She wants to understand it, to earn it, to feel like she is choosing and winning a man of real value. The world teaches men to be good boys, to ask permission to exist, to lower themselves, to tread carefully to avoid judgment. Meanwhile, many women grow quietly tired of this. They won't admit it publicly, but inside they feel frustrated. They become distant, emotionally unavailable, not from lack of love, but from lack of impact. Impact comes from a man who doesn't give himself away for free, who doesn't reply instantly, who doesn't pour his heart out after half an hour of conversation, who doesn't make a woman the center of his entire life. He lives his own life and lets her see if she fits into it. That's the real secret. A woman respects a man with his own world. At first, she may complain or resist, but deep down, she respects it. And respect is the seed that grows into desire. Everything else is just decoration. Here's what nobody says aloud. A woman is drawn to the man who creates a gentle inner conflict, the one who makes her wonder, why doesn't he treat me like others? Why isn't he desperate? Why does he remain calm and unaffected? These questions are subtle but powerful. The more she tries to answer them, the more attached she becomes, because the answer never fully comes. The man she cannot fully understand is the man she remembers, dreams about, compares others to, and everyone else loses. But most men misunderstand this. They think being this kind of man means being rude, arrogant, or cold. It doesn't. It's subtle, psychological, energetic, not harsh words, but silence with weight. Not shouting, but calm that unsettles. Not cruelty, but intentional space. The look that says, I see you, but I don't need you. That look makes a woman question herself, because deep down, she wants to be chosen, but chosen by a man who doesn't need to choose anyone. Admitting this reveals that female desire, beneath social layers, is a quiet psychological dance. The man who understands this stops suffering, stops chasing blindly, and stops begging for non-existent space. He becomes the man she notices, imagines, and tries to figure out, not the one she controls or forgets. Her mind relaxes only when she meets a man who could lose her, but is unafraid of that possibility. That inner confidence is irresistible. She doesn't want to be treated like a fragile queen. She wants to earn a place in the life of a man who doesn't give himself away easily. That is what moves her, makes her reflect, return, insist, and feel. The same woman who would never say this out loud, but often the woman who seems calm is the one losing sleep over a man who never emotionally kneels before her. This is the beginning of a truth no one talks about. The part that breaks all modern fairy tale ideas about romance. The part that reveals what really happens inside her mind when she meets a man who doesn't need her, yet still desires her. What no one admits is this: women don't always want instant emotional clarity. They want space. They want a little uncertainty. They want the pause between one message and the next. The gap that makes them wonder if you are thinking about them. They want to feel like they could lose you because that's what sparks their emotions. When a man replies instantly, shares too much too soon, and gives all his attention with no boundaries, her mind often labels that energy as predictable. And for many women, predictable equals disposable. It's not cruelty, it's instinct. What requires no effort creates no value. What creates no tension cannot sustain desire. She wants to feel she earned you, not that you were always there, endlessly available, like a tap pouring unlimited attention even when she does nothing. And every woman knows this. Even if she says she loves caring, attentive men, she does, until they become too predictable. Then the shine fades, the curiosity disappears, the attraction quietly dies, and she starts inventing excuses. It's not you, it's me. I'm in a complicated phase. I'm not ready for something serious. All just ways of hiding the real truth. You became emotionally obvious, and obviousness kills fascination. Obviousness is the death of desire because the female mind thrives in duality. She wants security, but also risk, stability, but also unpredictability, affection, but also intensity, compliments, but only when they feel genuine. She wants to feel desired, but she also wants to feel like she earned that desire. These contradictions confuse men who think linearly, but in her emotional world, they make perfect sense. A woman is drawn to a man who can move between these two sides without losing himself. A man who isn't cold but doesn't melt either, who isn't distant but doesn't live on his knees. A man who knows when to appear and when to step back. And this is the power nobody teaches. Strategic absence is worth more than 1,000 love speeches. When you disappear for a while, not as a game, but because you're genuinely busy living your life, you create space for her to feel, imagine, and wonder about you. That space creates energy. Energy creates attraction. Attraction creates desire. When you return, she sees you differently because she realizes she doesn't fully own you. A woman values a man who doesn't belong entirely to her. And the most ironic part, you don't have to fake anything. You just need to truly live your life. Men with goals, focus, and purpose naturally seem more attractive because they don't have time for empty flattery. They don't shape themselves to please everyone. They don't beg for love. And that confidence feels magnetic. Women are drawn to men who carry quiet self-assurance, not arrogance, but emotional strength. A man who doesn't fall apart when she tests his limits. A man who stays centered even when she tries to provoke a reaction. Almost every woman tests, not out of cruelty, but to understand what kind of man you really are. If you panic, you lose. If you get confused, you lose. If you give everything away instantly, you lose. But when you stay grounded, even through silence, delays, or emotional swings, she becomes curious because she has finally met someone different. Anything that breaks the pattern instantly gains value. The man who keeps his composure even when she tries to shake him is the man she never forgets. He's the one she talks about with her friends weeks later, the one she compares to future partners, the one who becomes a quiet reference in her mind, even if the story was brief. He leaves a mark because he cannot be easily controlled. This is the secret no one likes to admit. A woman only truly values what she believes she could lose. If you give yourself completely with no boundaries, you remove the natural tension that pulls her toward you. Her mind works in emotional cycles. She needs to feel there is something to win, something to understand, something still alive between you. Female desire, deep down, is a mystery. And when a man reveals everything instantly, the mystery dies. And without mystery, nothing grows. Here's another truth no one talks about. Women are attracted more to psychological strength than physical strength. Physical strength impresses for a few seconds. Money might impress for a few days, but psychological power leaves an impact for years. It's the power of a man who stays calm through emotional storms, who doesn't need to prove himself to anyone, who knows his value and doesn't abandon that sense of self even when in love. This kind of presence connects deeply with the female mind because it awakens something ancient inside her, the need to feel emotionally safe beside someone strong. Emotional strength doesn't mean being cold or rigid, it means having the inner control to stay centered even when everything around you tries to pull you off balance. That creates an aura, a quiet authority that women may never openly admit, but always recognize. It's the kind of energy that makes her fix her hair when you enter the room, that makes her glance for you while pretending not to notice. It changes how she feels, behaves, and reacts, all because you didn't fall into the modern trap of desperately seeking approval. Approval is the poison. When you beg for it, you send the message that you see yourself beneath her. And a woman rarely desires what she feels she completely owns. She may like you, she may care about you, she may think you're sweet, but desire requires something deeper. Desire is the engine of everything. Most people won't tell you this. If men truly understood how deeply women are drawn to a man who lives for himself, not for them, the typical romantic scripts would collapse. Because being kind alone doesn't create attraction, confidence, self-respect, and presence do. Female desire doesn't follow logic, it follows what feels strong. Women, deep down, want to feel something real. It doesn't matter how much they try to explain it logically. Emotional impact, not logic, drives attraction. And emotional impact comes from a man who isn't afraid to stand apart. Different from the crowd of needy men. Different from those who constantly seek validation. That needy energy pushes women away. What she truly wants is someone steady. Someone who doesn't break under pressure, who doesn't beg, who doesn't crumble when things get tough. This doesn't mean being rude, it means having inner strength, emotional stability. It means not chasing her when she pulls back, not panicking when she goes silent, not over-explaining to seem nice. A woman doesn't fall for the good boy who tries to prove his worth. She falls for the man who doesn't need to prove anything. The man who lives his own life, who doesn't place her at the center of everything, who doesn't fall apart when she tests him emotionally. He isn't just desired, he occupies her mind in ways she would never admit. Almost every woman tests, not out of cruelty, but to understand your limits. She wants to see if you stay composed when she pulls back, ignores you, or changes her tone. If you panic, she sees you as predictable. But if you remain calm, prioritize your life, and keep your composure, something shifts inside her. She senses strength, and strength is irresistible. Respect fuels desire. No woman is deeply attracted to someone she sees as emotionally weak. She may stay for convenience, but true desire grows only in strong soil. Desire thrives where there's quiet firmness, not aggression. Inner strength, not arrogance. The less you try to convince her, the more she believes in you. The less you try to impress her, the more she notices. The less you give yourself away, the more she wants to explore you. Women are drawn by curiosity. She wants to know what's inside you that isn't immediately revealed. When she realizes you aren't trying to convince her, she slowly convinces herself. Nothing is more powerful than that. When someone builds their own story about you, her imagination becomes stronger than anything you could say. That's why quiet men are often more intriguing than those who talk non-stop. Silence creates space for curiosity and fascination. Reveal too much, and you kill the mystery. A woman desires a man who doesn't emotionally kneel to her because it signals inner strength. Remaining grounded shows he has solidity inside. Not panicking when she pulls away shows he doesn't depend on her completely. Not constantly trying to please shows he values himself, and that's attractive. Idolizing her makes a man emotionally cheap, and anything cheap loses value. Women want desire, not worship that removes all challenge. Perceived value rises with rarity. Give yourself away too easily and you become a prize requiring no effort. Effortless prizes leave no mark. A man who focuses on himself, lives with purpose, doesn't try to please everyone, knows when to say no, and doesn't fill every silence with explanations becomes unforgettable. Not by playing games, but by carrying emotional value. He isn't for sale cheaply. He doesn't trade dignity for validation. This creates something deep inside her. She starts to miss you, your thoughts, your presence, the fact that you don't always text first. That uncertainty fuels silent fascination. Obsession grows in the empty spaces you leave. in uncertainty, the real fuel for female desire. Most hide this behind romantic ideals, but the truth is simple. A woman desires a man who isn't emotionally available all the time. The man she has to win, the man she has to figure out, whose presence feels strong, whose absence is felt. A woman loses interest the moment your world revolves around her. When your identity, mood, and self-worth depend on her attention, dependence shows weakness, and weakness doesn't spark desire. Women like kind, caring men, but only when those men also possess strength, independence, and self-respect, their own lives. Affection loses its value when it's the only thing you offer. Kindness loses its power when it comes from fear. Constant presence becomes suffocating when there is no space, no distance, no air to breathe. The psychological truth is simple. The more you are always there, the less she misses you. The less she misses you, the less she thinks about you. And the less she thinks about you, the more predictable you become. Predictability slowly kills attraction. That's why she feels more alive with a man who is not always available. A man who can calmly say, "I can't right now," without guilt, without fear, without explanations. A man with boundaries. A man whose life does not place her at the center of everything. He doesn't need to be harsh or cold. He only needs to be grounded. He has a world that does not revolve around her. A woman doesn't want to be the center of your life. She wants to feel that you are the center of your own life, and she gets to move around that strength. It may sound uncomfortable, but it's real. Most men fail because they place the woman above themselves, and the moment you do that, your value drops in her eyes. A woman desires the man who puts himself first. Not because he is selfish, but because he is solid. He knows who he is. He knows what he wants. He does not abandon himself to win someone. He does not destroy his world to fit into hers. He keeps his roots strong. And that strength is magnetic. And this is where the truly strategic part begins. A woman respects the man who is willing to lose her. She respects him because he does not bend himself out of fear. She respects him because he does not lower his standards. She respects him because he is not afraid of being alone. And the man who does not fear emptiness is the man who holds real power in any relationship. Women, even silently, are drawn to this kind of strength. Not the strength that controls, but the strength that does not collapse. But the world teaches men the opposite. It teaches you to be too nice, too understanding, too emotionally available. It teaches you that if she feels uncomfortable, you must rush to fix it. It teaches you that you must constantly explain yourself, prove yourself, justify your intentions. And ironically, the more you try to prove your value, the less she believes in it. Because value that needs explanation loses its impact. Value that needs justification feels forced. And anything forced loses its natural attraction. A man with real value never tries to convince anyone. He simply exists as he is. He acts according to his principles. He moves with calm certainty. He does not reshape himself to please. He does not apologize for having boundaries. He does not lose his balance when emotions rise. He stays composed even when tested, and that steadiness stays in her mind. No one says this openly, but a woman wants to be emotionally guided, not controlled, not overwhelmed, but guided. She wants to feel she is beside a man who knows where he is going. A man who does not fall apart at the first challenge. A man whose inner stability allows her to relax, because she knows he will not break. Even the most independent women carry this quiet desire, not for financial control, but for emotional stability. A man who controls himself, not her. And this control is not shown through words, it is shown through reactions. The feminine world reads subtext. She listens less to what you say and more to what you show without speaking. If she provokes you and you react emotionally, she reads insecurity. If she pulls away and you panic, she reads dependence. If she tests you and you break, she reads weakness. It's not logic, it's instinct. And here is the part almost nobody admits. A woman wants to feel that a man will continue living, growing, and moving forward, even if she disappears. The man who carries that quiet certainty becomes deeply attractive, because it cannot be faked. And real confidence is the strongest attraction there is. One last hidden truth. A woman respects silence more than explanations. When you explain too much, justify too much, or open up too fast, she reads anxiety, and anxiety signals one thing: lack of readiness. But calm silence, steady silence, confident silence speaks louder than words. It says you are not afraid to lose her. It says you know your worth. It says your value does not need approval. When you truly believe in yourself, she feels it. Masculine self-respect carries an energy that fills the space around you. She notices it even from a distance. It's the same energy that makes her think of you later, without knowing why. That makes her check her phone for no reason. That makes her imagine you with someone else, and that unlocks something deep inside her. Because the truth is simple: a woman desires what she fears losing. If you give yourself completely, there is nothing to lose. If your world revolves around her, there is nothing to lose. If you beg, there is nothing to lose. But when you show that your life moves forward with or without her, fear appears. And in feminine nature, the fear of loss is one of the strongest drivers of desire. Nobody talks about this, but it exists quietly. A woman only opens herself fully when she sees a man who does not kneel for her. No matter how modern ideas try to deny it, the dynamic remains. She may like you, she may admire you, she may care, but she only truly surrenders when she sees a man who stays whole, even at the risk of losing her. That unsettles her. That pulls her in. Why? Because when a man shows that his life does not depend on her, he awakens a quiet emotional competition inside her. I want to be chosen, but I want to be chosen by a man who doesn't choose easily. That is the paradox of female desire. She wants the man who doesn't need to win. She wants the man who doesn't beg for attention. She wants the man whose value is so natural that even a small moment of his attention feels like gold. And the ironic part is, you don't have to fake any of this. Pretending is always visible. Forced behavior always feels needy. What truly captures a woman's mind is authenticity, who you really are. When you are genuinely focused on yourself, your path, your goals, your life, without making her the center of your universe, she feels it. She senses something different, and in her mind, anything different feels both risky and deeply attractive. Here's a truth few people admit. A woman doesn't want a man who lives for her. She wants a man who lives even without her. A man who doesn't change his routine just because she appeared, who doesn't drop his goals because she sent a message, who doesn't trade his mission for romance. Even if she complains, even if she says she wants more attention, deep down, she respects the man who doesn't emotionally fall apart when her world is chaotic. And that respect is the foundation of desire. Without respect, everything eventually collapses. A woman may feel surface-level attraction to a weak man at first, but she will never fully open her heart to him. Because opening up requires emotional trust, and no one truly trusts a man who changes direction with every shift in the wind. That's why the most desired men are not always the most handsome, the richest, or the most popular. They are the most consistent. The men who remain calm and steady while everyone else keeps changing. This inner steadiness, not rigid routine, but emotional stability, is what she looks for. There's something even deeper. A woman feels emotional pleasure in slowly discovering layers of a man he doesn't reveal right away. She wants to read your silences, interpret your looks, understand the meaning behind your calm. When a man opens himself completely too fast, he removes the mystery. He gives answers before she even asks the questions. And every woman, even unconsciously, wants to ask those questions. She wants to explore. She wants to feel that there is depth inside you, not dark secrets, but a rich inner world that not everyone can reach. This is the key. Rare depth is more attractive than rare beauty. A deep man doesn't live on the surface. He stays rooted in himself. He doesn't rush to display intense emotions. He doesn't show off. He doesn't seek validation. He simply exists with a quiet strength that makes a woman rethink what she believed about men. Without realizing it, she begins to adjust to his rhythm. She quiets her own inner noise just to feel his silence. And in that contrast, real connection is born, when a man's presence subtly reorganizes the emotional space around him. But nobody talks about this because the modern world rewards anxious behavior. Instant replies, clingy attention disguised as care, insecurity disguised as sensitivity, and women are tired of it. Tired of men who give everything without being asked. tired of men who chase before she even moves, tired of being admired by men who don't respect themselves. The truth is uncomfortable but real. She doesn't want to be the automatic top priority. She wants to be a deserved priority. And here's something even deeper. A woman feels stronger attraction when she realizes you are willing to walk away at the first sign of disrespect. That boundary is magnetic. It shows inner strength. And a man without fear activates something powerful in the female mind: emotional awareness. She realizes she can't play games with you. She can't cross your limits. She can't test you in ways that make other men collapse. You don't break, and that creates respect. Respect slowly turns into desire, and desire turns into constant thoughts of you. What few people admit is this: a woman wants to know you could leave, but she wants even more for you to choose to stay, not because you need her, but because you want to. That voluntary choice means more than any dramatic declaration of love. Desperate love pushes her away. Calm, grounded love pulls her in. At the center of everything is a simple truth. A woman desires the man she fears losing, the man who has options, the man who doesn't live in emotional scarcity or depend on her approval to feel alive. That man carries an energy she can sense from a distance, emotional abundance. He doesn't need her, and that's exactly why she begins to need him. She will never say this out loud, but there comes a moment when she starts imagining you in situations she cannot control. And that's when her desire deepens. This happens when you naturally show that you have your own world, a life that moves with or without her. When you grow, evolve, meet people, and live experiences that don't depend on her, something switches on in her mind. She realizes you are not only desirable to her, but valuable to life itself. And that realization stirs something deep in her emotions. That's why a man who lives a full life, rich with movement, purpose, and quiet confidence, awakens something rare: emotional competition. She would never admit it, but she feels it. A woman wants to feel special, but she only truly feels that way when she knows you have options. If you live in emotional emptiness, she feels too safe, too comfortable, too bored. But when she realizes you exist in a world where other eyes can notice you, other minds can appreciate you, her attention sharpens. And attention is the spark of desire. Here's the subtle truth. You don't need to force this. You don't need to make her jealous. You don't need to play games. Those things look artificial and desperate. You just need to live fully and honestly. And when she sees that your life continues independently of her, something powerful starts inside her. The urge to keep up, the fear of falling behind, the need to stay aligned with you. She fears being replaceable, not because you threatened it, but because your energy shows you don't cling to anyone who isn't growing alongside you. Nobody admits this because it breaks the romantic fantasy. A woman doesn't surrender to the man who worships her. She surrenders to the man who inspires her. Inspiration comes from a lived life, not blind devotion. Devotion suffocates her. Inspiration expands her. Devotion weakens attraction. Inspiration strengthens it. So the man who rises above chaos, drama, and emotional games creates something rare in her mind: silent admiration. And that is where real desire is built. Another truth rarely spoken. Women observe everything. She notices how you treat others, how you act when you're not trying to impress her, how you handle pressure. She senses a man's inner posture, and she knows when it's real. Inner posture is what keeps you calm under provocation. It stops you from begging for attention. It keeps you grounded when moods shift. It allows you to remain whole while she quietly looks for emotional cracks, not to destroy you, but to understand you. She wants to know what affects you, what moves you, whether she has influence over you. If she feels she can control you, interest slowly fades. But if she realizes she can't, fascination grows. That's the emotional paradox at the core of this dynamic. When she can easily influence you, you become predictable. When she can't, you become unforgettable. And here is the raw truth. A woman doesn't want a perfect man. She wants an unbreakable man. Not aggressive, not arrogant, but strong on the inside. A man who isn't afraid of silence, who doesn't fall apart because she took hours to reply. A man who doesn't measure every word out of fear of losing her. A man who understands that loss is part of life and still walks forward with his head high. That kind of strength is impossible to ignore. And when she meets a man like that, something deep inside her quietly shifts. She starts adjusting herself to your rhythm. Her tone changes, her eyes change. Even the way she replies feels different. She may begin to test you in softer, smarter ways. She may try to disturb your balance just to see what happens. She wants to know how real your calm truly is. And when she realizes that your calm is genuine, not an act, not a tactic, something happens. She surrenders emotionally. That surrender is never loud or dramatic. She will never say, "I give in." Instead, it turns inward. She starts thinking about you at the wrong times. You cross her mind when you shouldn't. She imagines you in moments she tries not to picture, and every thought pulls her a little deeper. Because here's the truth nobody likes to say out loud. Female desire is often born from inner tension. From the quiet question, why can't I figure him out? Why doesn't he react like other men? Why don't I feel in control here? This tension isn't created by games. It's created by a man who lives with purpose and depth. When you're not always available, she starts to feel like she has to earn you. And the word earn carries immense power in a woman's emotional world. Here's another hidden truth. A woman desires the man she imagines, not the man she completely sees. The moment she has full access to you, your thoughts, your emotions, your constant presence, you remove the space where imagination lives, and imagination is where desire grows. But when you keep your depth, your inner world, your quiet focus, your life moving forward, she fills that space herself. She builds stories. She creates meaning. And fantasy, almost always, is stronger than reality. That's why a man who lives for himself becomes magnetic without trying. He doesn't chase attraction. His life creates it. His silence creates mystery. His consistency creates safety. His lack of desperation creates value. And all of this together awakens something unspoken inside her, the desire to win him. That desire is what moves everything. There is always a silent, almost invisible moment when a woman completely changes how she sees a man. That moment never comes from compliments, affection, or promises. It comes when she realizes something deeper. This man is willing to walk away. Not as a threat, not dramatically, not as a game, but calmly, grounded, without fear. She understands then, this man does not fear loss. He does not beg, he does not depend, he keeps moving forward. This energy, even when no one talks about it, is at the core of deep attraction. A woman is always observing. She watches how you react when she pulls back. She notices if you chase when she becomes distant. She sees whether you give away your entire heart after a small sign of interest. She studies your emotional independence, your stability, whether you move according to her moods or your own direction. And when she realizes that you live by your own rhythm, not hers, something inside her softens. This isn't submission, it's recognition. Recognition of your inner structure, your firmness, your value. And that recognition creates real desire. Not the shallow kind born from looks or words, but the kind that lives in her mind, the kind that makes her think of you in quiet moments. Check her phone without knowing why. Look at a doorway and briefly hope you'll walk through it, even when she tells herself she doesn't care. But here's the detail almost no one admits. This recognition only happens when you're not trying to be recognized. Chasing validation destroys mystery. Rushing kills depth. Neediness dissolves the masculine energy she's drawn to. Because masculine energy, at its core, is structure. The ability to remain steady while everything around you shifts, shakes, or becomes chaotic. The man who doesn't react emotionally to disorder, but simply walks through it, is rare. And what is rare is desired. When you show that you don't need her, but you still choose her, she feels something no compliment can create. The honor of being chosen by a man who didn't have to choose her. A woman wants to be chosen by someone who has options. That contrast creates a subtle emotional spark mixed with curiosity. Not harmful insecurity, but a small, quiet flame that makes her wonder, is he thinking about me? Did I misread something? Is there more to him? Desire grows in the space between what she knows and what she imagines. Here's another uncomfortable truth. A woman is drawn to the man she feels she cannot fully control. Control for her isn't about dominance. It's about measuring stability. When she feels she has complete control over you, when you reply instantly, agree too easily, adjust too quickly, respect begins to fade. And without respect, attraction cannot survive. She may still like you, she may find you kind, she may even stay for comfort. But deep desire won't be there. Because desire needs tension, and tension comes from boundaries. One boundary unsettles her more than any other: your ability to remain balanced even when she tests you, when she provokes, when she changes moods, when she pulls away. And you don't react like a desperate man. You stay centered. Her mind then asks a dangerous question. Why is he different? And the moment she asks that, fascination has already begun. Many men fail today because they fear losing. They're afraid of being seen as distant, afraid of being labeled cold. So they overgive. Too much attention, too much availability, too many explanations. They believe they're showing care, but what they're really doing is erasing themselves. A woman does not desire what overwhelms her. She desires what challenges her. Not emotionally childish challenges, but something deeper. She wants to rise to the rhythm of a man who has a world beyond her. And here is the most quietly strategic truth of all. A woman falls deeply for the man who gently forces her to grow emotionally, not by lecturing, not by correcting, but simply through his presence. When she interacts with a steady, grounded man, she has to elevate herself to meet him. She becomes more aware, more intentional, more composed. And when a man causes a woman to rise emotionally without trying, she feels something rare: admiration. And admiration is the foundation of true desire. That's why when you don't reply instantly, not because you're playing games, but because you're genuinely living, she feels that life. And a man whose life doesn't revolve around her is deeply attractive. She wants to be part of your life. She just doesn't want to be your entire life. Being needed feels heavy. Being chosen feels powerful. The man who chooses is remembered. The man who begs is forgotten. There's something even deeper. A woman desires the man who is externally unpredictable but internally stable. He doesn't always act exactly as expected, but he never loses himself. He pulls back without disappearing. He returns without pleading. He surprises without manipulation. He is a living paradox. And paradoxes are irresistible, not because they are confusing, but because they feel alive. A woman never fully desires what she completely understands. She desires what makes her feel. And the man who makes her feel occupies her mind even in silence. That is the man she searches for. That is the man she cannot easily forget. That is the man she both wonders about and respects. The man she desires. There comes a moment, even for the strongest and most independent woman, when she emotionally surrenders to the man who does not tremble in her presence. And that moment is not created by smooth words, promises, gifts, or exaggerated affection. It is born from one powerful realization: I don't control this man. She never says it out loud, but it echoes in her subconscious and quietly rearranges everything she feels. Because the truth is, a woman doesn't want to control a man. She wants to be chosen by a man she cannot control. That changes everything. She wants to know that you could leave at any moment, yet you choose to stay. And that sense of choice is the deepest pulse of feminine desire. If you stay because you have no options, she feels no attraction. If you stay because you're afraid, she senses weakness. If you stay because you don't know how to exist without her, she slowly grows tired. But if you stay by choice, while the whole world remains open to you, she softens. A woman wants to be chosen, not chased, preferred, not placed on a pedestal, desired, not dominated. And here is the hard truth most men struggle to accept. A woman thinks more about the man she fears losing than the man who is always available. This is instinct. This is human psychology. When you are always there, always ready, always replying, always agreeing, always trying to anticipate her emotions, she never truly misses you. And when there is no absence, desire slowly fades. But when you step back for a while, when you go live your life, when you are not emotionally tied to her every move, longing begins to grow. She starts asking herself, is he with someone else? Did he lose interest? Did I do something wrong? And inside these questions, something deeper begins. Yes, love. Passion is not born from total comfort. It is born from emotional tension, from mystery, from silence, from healthy uncertainty. And most of all, from the feeling that this man does not give himself away too easily. A man who offers himself too quickly often loses value just as fast. Not because she is unkind, but because the human mind works this way. What comes too easily rarely leaves a deep emotional mark. That is why the man who remains grounded, steady, deep, and centered wins something most desperate men never do. He wins her imagination. And imagination is where a woman desires you the most. It is where she creates versions of you, where she fantasizes, where she sees you as stronger than you are, rarer than you are, more valuable than you believe yourself to be. All because of one simple thing. You are not available like everyone else. And here is the most Machiavellian truth of all. A woman falls in love far more with the emotional impact you create than with your looks, money, or status. Those things may open doors, but they do not sustain attraction. What truly holds her is how you make her feel. And deep feelings awaken only when you show inner strength, something she does not encounter often. Inner strength is not aggression. It is not emotional distance. It is not fake indifference. Inner strength is knowing who you are, with or without her. It is walking with the same calm confidence, the same steady energy, the same sense of security, whether she is beside you or not. It is knowing you do not need anyone to feel whole. And that sense of wholeness is the greatest aphrodisiac in the feminine world. Few admit it openly, but a woman feels both respect and attraction for the man who does not reshape himself just to please her. The man who calmly says no, who sets boundaries, who knows what he accepts and what he does not, who does not collapse under emotional tests, but meets them with steady eyes and a calm presence. She feels this, not just in your words, but in your body language, in the space around you, in your energy. And that energy creates an effect rarely spoken about. She begins to fear losing you. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly, deep inside. And that quiet fear is what sustains desire. Not destructive fear, but the instinctive feeling that you are too rare, too grounded, too valuable to easily replace. When you awaken this in her, you become unforgettable. Even if the relationship ends, even if life pulls you apart, even if years pass, you remain a reference point in her memory. Because you were the one man she could not bend. And here lies the final truth, the deepest one, the one most people deny. Women want emotional strength, not fragility. They want presence, not desperation. They want boundaries, not worship. They want intensity, not dependence. They want a man who can walk away, yet still chooses to stay. A man who does not fall apart, yet still desires her deeply. A man who does not chase blindly, yet somehow still reaches her. A man who does not surrender his identity, yet knows how to truly connect. They want something they may never say out loud. A man strong enough not to need them. And exactly because of that, irresistible when he chooses them. That is the hidden truth, the unspoken script behind everything.